Hello folks, good morning. Welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. I say good morning, that's kind of presumptuous, isn't it? It's about 8:15 on Saturday morning with me, which means it's like 4:15 for those who are subscribing in the UK. And it's already tomorrow in places like New Zealand, I guess. So anyhow, it's morning with me, so good morning. Wherever you are, I hope you're having a great day. We've had chance now to at least partially digest the proposed collaboration, corporate agreement, whatever, that exists between Turki Alalshikh, Dana White, and other individuals with respect to the proposed, I'm going to call it boxing league. That's not exactly how it's been described, but I think if I say boxing league, we all kind of get the gist. And, as I said in my sort of introductory video about this, I can see some positives and there are some negatives, which are also quite glaring. I'm trying to take a neutral wait-and-see approach on this, rather than let my personal biases come out. There are individuals in this agreement that one would not instinctively feel overly charitable towards. And there are concerns, most notably around pay and conditions and whatnot, that those who've been keen followers of the UFC would point to and say, do we want that in boxing? And then there are others who would say, well, actually, most of the boxers in the world don't get paid very much, so your argument is flawed because you're using elites in boxing who make fortunes, and you're sort of saying that all boxers are equivalent to that, and then you're pointing a accusatory finger at, for example, the UFC and say, well, look what those poor schleps make. Like many things, when you take a broad brush stroke, or the view from 30,000 feet, there's going to be nuances that you miss. So like I say, I'm taking a fairly neutral sort of approach to this. But one of the things that has come out recently on at least 3 or 4 of the YouTube channels that I watch is some form of hand-wringing and concern expressed about they're going to overturn the Muhammad Ali Act, which may or may not be the case. It's possible, it's also possibly not. But the Muhammad Ali Act has been bandied about on a number of channels and being waved as though, this is linked to the proposed deal between Turki Alalshikh and Dana White, etc. And so I thought that while most hardcore fans will be familiar with the Muhammad Ali Act, maybe some people are somewhat less familiar. And based on a couple of the channels that I watched, there's a significant misunderstanding. And so I thought I'd scratch out just a couple of pages of notes. I spent some time doing a little bit of, Cole's notes research, shall we say, and that I would sort of give you my understanding in simple, easy to digest words, because I'm a simple sort of guy, what the Muhammad Ali Act is all about. So when you next see a channel where somebody is, either, losing their minds about it, or they are speaking about it in a more sort of reasonable way, at least you will have an understanding about what it is they're talking about. But like with anything, I encourage you to do your own reading on this. This is just one fan's half an hour's worth of research digested into, simple words. So let me just go over what it is, and hopefully it'll provide some edification. The Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act which is often called the Muhammad Ali Act, is a US federal law passed in 2000 to protect the rights and welfare of professional boxers. It was introduced to address alleged corruption, exploitation, and unfair practices in boxing. So there's a couple of things there to really notice. United States federal law. I live in Canada. United States federal law has no applicability in Canada, notwithstanding Mr. Trump's, I should say President Trump's, desire to make Canada a 51st state. It hasn't, at least as of today, happened. And it's introduced to protect the rights and welfare of professional boxers. So it doesn't have applicability to non-professional boxers, like amateur boxers. They looked after in other ways, white-collar fighters, etc., so forth, right? So it's narrow. But the key thing is United States federal law. So if you're in another part of the world, the Act won't necessarily apply unless a contract has specified that the terms of the contract are to be subject to United States federal law, and any litigation regarding the issue will be held in some, New York City or somewhere like that, right? Key provisions. Increased transparency. The Act requires promoters to disclose financial details, including all compensation or fees paid to boxers. Contracts must outline payments and deductions clearly, so a boxer actually gets to see what they're getting paid, what's coming off the top, etc. Not like in the old days where, okay, look, there's 50 grand, now disappear. Protection against conflicts of interest. Under the Act, a promoter cannot have a financial interest in a boxer while also acting as their manager. And this prevents, or is designed to prevent, managers from steering their fighters into unfavorable deals that benefit promoters. Conflicts of interest. Okay? Rankings and sanctioning bodies regulation. Boxing organizations must publish objective criteria for rankings. This is designed to prevent promoters from manipulating rankings. And if you manipulate a ranking, of course, you can get a fighter a shot, or you can make it much, much harder for a fighter to get a shot at a title, of course, right? Mandatory reporting to state commissions. Promoters must disclose all financial details of a fight contract to state athletic commissions. So this, of course, doesn't apply outside of the United States of America. Boxers have a right to legal action. It gives boxers a right to sue promoters or managers who violate the law. To be honest, that existed previously, but it makes it quite clear in federal law in the United States of America that those rights exist. Now, people are talking about attempts to overturn the Act. There's been no concerted effort that I can see that there has been an attempt to overturn the Act. There have been discussions, of course, about its effectiveness and potential expansion. Randy Couture, for example, the MMA fighter, he tried to push to get the Muhammad Ali Act to cover mixed martial arts. He was not successful in the expansion of the Muhammad Ali Act to cover MMA fighters, because remember, it applies to professional boxers, not professional fighters. Randy Couture argued that MMA fighters face similar issues, including unfair contracts and ranking manipulation. There was a bill, and it was called the Muhammad Ali Expansion Act. It was introduced in Congress, but it was not passed. So that's the argument to expand the MMA, to bring MMA people under the umbrella, if you like, of the Muhammad Ali Act. Perhaps not surprisingly, the UFC opposed the expansion, and they argued that the sport already had provisions that were comparable to the Ali Act. And if you brought MMA under the Muhammad Ali Act, they said it would interfere with business operations. I haven't looked into the merits of either side of the argument. This is just the arguments. People like Randy Couture say should have been included. People like the UFC say no, we've got it covered already with our own contracts. We don't need it. We don't need the extra regulation and bureaucracy or red tape, right? Also, some boxing promoters have criticized the Muhammad Ali Act on the grounds of additional bureaucracy and red tape. Essentially, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Some people would say that the Muhammad Ali Act has cleaned up some of boxing's worst financial and contractual abuses. Some critics would say it hasn't gone far enough. The lack in the United States of America of a national boxing commission has meant that its enforcement and administration has been somewhat spotty at best. If you have a state athletic commission that is well funded and vigorous in its enforcement protocols, then the provisions of the Muhammad Ali Act are likely to be adhered to much more carefully, and enforcement in cases where there's been alleged malfeasance is likely to be more vigorous. If you have a commission that is not well funded by the state, then consequently you will expect to see the provisions to be less vigorously enforced. It's the same as any regulatory provision, whether it's financial regulation or anything else. A lot depends upon the strength and the funding that the regulator has. So there we go. There's a little 12-minuter on this fan's interpretation and understanding of the Muhammad Ali Act. But I think it's key to understand that it is a United States federal law. So if you're watching this video, watching other videos, and you don't live in the United States of America, well then you should remember that unless the contract has specifically said that they will be governed by the provisions of it has limited applicability. Should I think it should be overturned or not? I don't see any reason why it should be, but I'm not going to get especially excited about this at this time. Like I say, it's a United States federal law. There we go. That's all I've got for the moment. Have a lovely day. Please like, please share, please subscribe. And I will see you on the next video. Wherever you are, have a great day. Cheers. Bye-bye.